Story: The Forgotten Village. In the vast plains of India, far beyond the dusty roads that led to the markets and cities, there was a village so small and hidden that travelers often passed it without knowing it existed. The villagers called it Koilari, a name whispered in the fields and sung in the monsoon winds. It sat like a lost memory between dry hills and dying rivers, a place that time itself seemed to forget. In the 1800s, when British rule spread across the land and kingdoms were fading like old paintings, Koilari remained untouched by progress, untouched by power, but deeply touched by poverty. The people of Koilari lived by the soil. They rose with the first light, worked until the sky turned copper red, and ate whatever the earth gave them. They had no machines, no schools, no doctor, only hope, faith, and an endless battle with hunger. This is the story of that village. The story of their struggle, their pain, and their unbreakable spirit. Koilari was surrounded by thorny trees and fields that cracked like old clay pots. During summer, the ground burned the feet of children. During monsoon, the fields turned into rivers of mud. And during winter, the winds carried the whispers of lost souls who once lived there. The people lived in small mud houses with thatched roofs. The air smelled of smoke, grain, and sweat. Their world was small. The well at the center of the village, the banyan tree where elders met, and the open field where children chased shadows. Most of the men worked as farmers, growing millets and lentils. The women carried water from the well and cooked whatever little they had. Children learned not from books, but from watching their parents, how to till the land, how to survive, how to remain silent even when the stomach cried. There was no money in Koilari. People traded grain for oil, milk for salt. A coin was a rare thing, seen only when the tax collectors came from the distant town. Yet, despite their poverty, they had something pure, a connection to the land, to each other. But that bond would soon be tested. The year was 1876. The monsoon did not come. The sky remained white and cruel. The fields cracked. The river that once sang to the village dried into a stretch of dead sand. The people waited for rain like they waited for mercy, with empty bowls and tired hearts. Days turned to weeks. Weeks turned to months. The cattle began to die first. The smell of death clung to the air. Mothers tried to feed their children dry grains mixed with water. Old people went without food so the young could live another day. One evening, the village elder, Raghu, gathered the people under the banyan tree. His voice trembled like the leaves above. "The gods have turned their faces away," he said. "But we must not turn against each other." Some men wanted to leave, to walk to the city in search of work. Others refused. "This is our land," said a young farmer named Hari. "If we leave it, we leave our souls behind." But hunger does not listen to pride. The famine worsened. The government sent no help. Grain merchants in the nearby towns hoarded food, raising prices beyond reach. The tax collectors still came, demanding payment for land that no longer grew anything. And one by one, the people of Koilari began to disappear. It began with the poorest families. They packed their few belongings, a pot, a blanket, a few dry rotis, and walked away into the horizon. Some went east, some west, but none ever returned. Hari stayed. He could not leave the land his father had tilled, the soil where his ancestors were buried. His wife Gauri, weak but determined, said quietly, "If we die here, at least the earth will know our names." Every morning, Hari walked to the field even though there was nothing left to plant. He touched the dry soil, prayed for rain, and felt his heart grow heavier. Children stopped playing. The well dried up. The sound of the village, the laughter, the songs, the chatter, turned into silence. One night, Hari saw a fire in the distance. One of the deserted huts had burned down.
He found a family had taken their lives, unable to bear hunger anymore. The entire village mourned without words. There was no energy left to cry. A month later, horse carts arrived. Men wearing British uniforms stepped down, followed by Indian soldiers. They brought orders, new taxes, new rules. They claimed the land now belonged to the crown. Raghu, the old village head, tried to reason with them. "Greater than, the land is dying," he said. "There is nothing left to take." But the soldiers had no ears for mercy. They demanded grain as tax, grain that did not exist. When the villagers protested, they were beaten. When they begged, they were ignored. The soldiers left with nothing, but before leaving, they took 3 young men, including Hari, to work as laborers on the new railway line being built miles away. Gauri fell to the ground as she watched her husband being taken away. The dust from the soldiers' boots covered her face. Hari was taken to a camp near a rocky valley, where thousands of poor men worked to build the British railway. They were promised wages, but often went unpaid. Many died from hunger and disease. The work was brutal. Men hammered iron under the blazing sun. Their sweat mixed with blood and dust. Hari thought only of his village, of Gauri waiting for him, of the cracked fields of Koilari. Sometimes, he would whisper, "Greater than, one day, I will return. The rains will come again." But days turned to months. He never received any message. Back in Koilari, Gauri grew weaker. She waited near the banyan tree every evening, hoping to see her husband return from the horizon. But only the wind came. In the second year of famine, dark clouds finally gathered in the sky. For the first time in many months, thunder rolled across the plains. The villagers ran outside, raising their hands toward the heavens. But when the rain came, it was too late. The land could no longer absorb it. Floods swept through the dead fields, destroying what little remained. Huts collapsed. The old banyan tree was struck by lightning. The river returned only to drown what was left of the village's hope. Gauri, frail and coughing, tried to save a neighbor's child from the rising water. She managed to pull the boy to safety, but the current took her away. Her body was never found. 2 years later, Hari returned. His hair had turned gray. His eyes, once bright, were empty. He carried a torn bag and a small piece of bread. When he reached Koilari, he saw silence. Half the huts were gone. The rest were empty. The fields had turned wild again. He walked to the well. It was dry. He walked to his hut. The door was broken. And under the banyan tree, where the roots had grown over the stones, he found a small wooden bangle, Gauri's. Hari sat there for hours. He did not cry. He simply stared at the horizon as if waiting for something that would never come. That night, he lit a small fire. He placed the bangle near it and whispered, "Greater than, the land remembers us, even if no one else does." The next morning, a traveler passing through found the fire still burning, but no sign of Hari. Years later, when famine and empire were only stories, people in nearby villages spoke of Koilari as a ghost village. Some said they could still hear voices at night, the sound of women singing, of men calling across the fields, of children laughing in the rain. The land eventually grew green again. The railway line that Hari helped build passed not far from where Koilari once stood. Trains roared across the land that had once been silent. But no one ever rebuilt Koilari. It remained a memory, swallowed by time. And yet, in some way, Koilari never truly died. Because every time a farmer kneels to touch the soil, every time a mother prays for rain, and every time a poor man dreams of a better life, the spirit of that forgotten village lives on. Thanks for watching.